Uli, can you check to see if we're live? We should be, and we can
Yes,
get
we're live.
started. Awesome. Okay, we're well over 100 people, so we will get this kicked off. Welcome everyone to the AGUI workshop. Today, we're going to build an agent canvas. What does that look like? Well, Tyler's going to show us. And yeah, so let's get the party started. I will quickly go through an agenda, and within this leading up to the demo, we'll do a quick recap, but we'll hit, who are we? We're the CopilotKit team that is behind AGUI. We will touch on what's new with AGUI, and then, you know, uh, just quickly go over how AGUI works at a high level. This is more of a building group, so we don't want to go too deep into it. Then Tyler is going to be presenting us with an agent canvas demo, and then we'll hit Q&A. And um, feel free to put your questions in the chat as we go, and we will definitely get to it. So who are we? I'm Nathan Tarbert. I'm the senior DevRel here at CopilotKit, who leads the open source community. And Uli, why don't you tell everyone who you are?
Everyone, I'm Uli. I'm one of the founders of CopilotKit, and I lead our growth and go-to-market team. And yeah, work alongside Nathan, getting CopilotKit and AGUI out into the world.
Awesome. And Tyler.
Hey everyone, I'm Tyler. I'm one of the founding engineers here at CopilotKit. I think I've seen a lot of recurring faces here, so glad to have everyone back. If you're new to the live stream, welcome. Yeah, looking forward to getting into it.
Yeah, and then Marcus, who is the brains behind AGUI, isn't joining today, but we always like to mention Marcus um, because what we've built is genius in the agent landscape.
Yeah, Marcus
So
is as cracked as they come.
yeah, he's amazing. So CopilotKit. CopilotKit is, developer infrastructure for bringing agents into applications. If we scope that down, it means, bringing AI copilots, which are, user interactive as opposed to autonomous agents. Um, we've seen autonomous agents, they only get, jobs right some of the time or most of the time, but, we believe with the human in the loop factor, um, you have a more success with agents. Uh, we're fully open source. We crossed over 21,000 GitHub stars, and we work with, you know, customers, small teams, hobbyist startups, all the way from unicorns to Fortune 100s. Really, all range of uh, developers and teams building agentic applications. And, you know, our focus is, let me go back here for one second. Our focus is providing the best user experience and the best in class copilots and copilot infrastructure. Our mission is to bridge human and artificial intelligence. We believe that over in the foreseeable future, we're going to see more and more of this agent user collaboration and partnership. And, humans will sit along with agents. And we're already seeing that in, as like developers in the developer landscape using Windsurf and Cursor and Claude Code. And, you know, most productivity in the tech space will be done uh, alongside agents. You think about, what what the realtor landscape is going to look like in the future, or lawyers. These are going to be partnering with agents. So it's really exciting. It actually brings us to the AGUI protocol,
And sorry,
which
Nathan,
is,
some people are
yeah,
having trouble seeing. So please um, look at the top banner of the Zoom app. And one tab says webinar, the other says Nathan Tarbert's screen. So just press on that. And let us know if there's more issues.
yeah, please do. I'm traveling, so I'm working on one screen, so I can't see. uh, the only thing I see is what I'm sharing right at this moment. So please let me know and raise your hand so we can get it fixed. Uh, so the AGUI protocol, it's an open, lightweight, event-based protocol for facilitating rich real-time agent user interactivity. That's a lot of words, but what it really means is bringing AI agents into front-end applications. So it's really the user interactivity layer. And this brings us to the M plus N problem. And Uli, do you want to hit this one?
Yeah,
Because you're
sure.
pretty good at
That's it's
describing
my
this.
favorite slide. Yeah. So basically, AGUI acts as a bridge between agent frameworks and clients, front-end clients. These can mean front-end React applications, or it can mean things like SMS or WhatsApp. It's just different interfaces for interacting with agents. And this turns an M times N problem into an M plus N problem. And what this means is that instead of each one of these frameworks integrating individually with each one of these clients, both sides just need to connect to this bridge and they automatically have full support for each other. So LangGraph, AG2, CrewAI, Mastra, Llama Index, Agno added this week, they all connect to the AGUI bridge. And so far, CopilotKit is the only client that connects on the client side and basically reads the events that these agents are emitting and translates that into UI and actions inside of your front end app. But we have more clients coming that take the same stream of events and are able to provide interactivity on different surfaces, such as Slack, SMS and WhatsApp, mobile. It's going to be all sorts of clients.
Nice. Yeah, and then when you look at the agent protocol landscape, we're kind of imagining this as a triangle. And where AGUI fits is completely complementary to the other two top agentic protocols. You could you could probably say three when you look at like A to A and ACP, but when you think of MCP, this is giving agents tools, so allowing agents to use tools, and then you've got A to A or ACP, which allows agents to communicate with other agents. And then to finish off the triangle, complete the triangle, is AGUI, which brings agents into user-facing applications, emitting events uh, via emitting events. So we like to use this visual, which kind of like helped bring it home for me. And then, as Uli mentioned, this week we folded in full Agno and Llama Index support, which is super exciting. And then massive receptions, I did a quick search today, and the NPM downloads for AGUI is 31,000 a week, which is insane. It's a month old, so it's really cool. Huge reception. We're seeing, posts everywhere. And like I mentioned before, a couple weeks ago, I did uh, a LinkedIn search just as an experiment, and I could not scroll to the bottom. That was 2 weeks ago. I it's impossible to find the bottom now. There's so many posts and so many people talking about AGUI. It's absolutely like exploding, which is really cool. And so we also added the npx create AGUI app command line to get started with one command. So, we invite everyone to, build a quick application. You'll be able to select your frameworks that AGUI supports and, start using AGUI within a couple minutes. We've got GitHub discussions where this is the place that contributors are able to communicate with Marcus directly. And, please follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn. There we go. Quickly, how it works, not to go too deep, but, at a high level, it's standardizing front-end applications to AI agents through AGUI. So you can think of it as a universal translator for AI-driven systems. All right. Quickly, I just want to do a quick recap. We launched this about 30 days ago, and with full support with LangGraph, Crew AI, Master AG2, now with Agnos support and Llama Index. And then we have just a ton of community contributions that we're really excited about. These are completely community-led. .NET, NIM, I believe Rust has been also that's in progress. So we're seeing, a lot of the community, which we invite because this is an open protocol. We don't want to control it. We want to partner and build together. So we're seeing a lot of the community come together. And now we're going to jump into a demo. Tyler, do you want to take it away?
Sure. All right, guys, I got a couple of things I want to throw out there, a couple of good questions in the chat. I think the biggest thing that I really want to make clear is what problem are we solving in the stack explicitly? There was a question, what is it to solve this problem without AGUI versus with? So let's say that you're building an agent application, right? And maybe you're using something pretty custom. Maybe you're using something like LangGraph. So LangGraph is going to be emitting a set of events through their streams. And that event is going to be completely different than something from a Crew AI flow or something completely different from a Master flow. And all of these are going to be very different streams, right? So what AGUI does is basically, one, allow you to use different agent frameworks really easily, basically tailoring your tasks to the agent framework that you prefer for that task. So instead of having to taking all three of these and putting them into your UI, you just take all three of these, they get converted into AGUI events, and then you just read AGUI events out. That is what is the entire value of AGUI, is consistently transforming these complex streams from all these different sources into one source so that you can swap out the clients on the other side really easily. Right now, CopilotKit's the only client, but we're going to be expanding this to things like Slack, to things like WhatsApp, to things like Discord, maybe even just texting in general, right? That's the whole value proposition is what if you could communicate with agents, not just with streams, but with a phone or with email, right? That's what we enable, right? All of these different integrations and partners that we're working with are flowing through AGUI events. And then on the other side is going to be CopilotKit for right now. That's, we're the parent company of AGUI, CopilotKit, so that's our first client. But we're also going to be adding things so that you can consume that stream in other ways as well. So I want to make that super clear before we even start talking about anything here, is that's what we're trying to solve, right? I don't know what Assistant Up is. So I'm also just reading, for clarity, N8N is not supported with AGUI or CopilotKits. AGUI will be the bridge by which we can support N8N, that anything can support N8N. And then I am going to get to a demo, guys. I just wanted to answer that question. I'm just reading through basically middleware for application and devices, kind of. It's more middleware for events, essentially. Yeah, the omni-channel agent. That's a good one. Okay, I also don't know what Assistant Up is still, so I'm just gonna move on. Cool. Let me go ahead and take a look at all this stuff. Give me 1 second to share my screen. So
Yeah, as you get ramped up, I also wanted to mention, there's other agent frameworks that are in flight, in process, like Pydantic AI. There's a whole list actually on our GitHub repo. AWS has a couple products that are in progress. Just check out our GitHub repo. We're listing them there. And also, before we get started, I also wanted to mention that if you are with an agent framework that's not yet supported by AGUI, please reach out to us. We're working with the frameworks directly. And yeah, so you can reach out to us on Twitter and we'll meet up with you. We'll kind of guide you along in how it's like a few days to a week of work from an agent framework perspective to get this integration, working. So
yep, cool.
cool.
All right, so what are we looking at right now? We're looking at the dojo inside of AGUI's repo. So what is the dojo? The dojo
And
is
sorry, Tyler, could you zoom in more?
sure. Give me 1 second.
And by the way, we're seeing like code, right?
Yeah, you should see code. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Could you zoom in even
Any
a
other
bit more?
preemptions?
Sorry, it's
Go ahead,
just
Willie.
yeah, could you zoom in just one more?
Sure. Okay, what
Thank
are we
you.
looking at? Why did I bring this up? That's the question, right? So AGUI, you might have recalled, we're trying to standardize how events are consumed for a variety of different purposes. Basically just talking with agents as the user. So what we built here is the dojo. If you go to our open source repo inside of AGUI today, you can go and look at this right now. I'll actually put a link in this so you can look at it alongside me. But basically, this is all of the integrations that we currently support. We put into this dojo to kind of service as an example of how you might consume these AGUI streams. Ultimately, AGUI is a collection of 16 or so events. So if I go into the AGUI docs, I can show you what those events are. These are things like run started, run finished, text message starts, tool calls, state events, and just raw custom events for anything outside of those core events. We're going to be adding support for files directly. That's going to be a new feature that we're going to be adding very soon. And this will be how you could collaborate with, say, like multi-modality models. So these are the current events. We're going to be adding a couple more. But this is what you might think of as the spec, essentially. We don't have a specification page like MCP does. This is really it. This is the spec. This is all the events that you can send and receive for an AGUI stream. So consuming these streams is relatively simple. Right now, this is a CopilotKit client. So these are a collection of just streams that are integrations made by each individual partner. So in this situation, you can see we have a new middleware starter agent. That is built through this integration that's really custom through the AGUI middleware starter. If we go and look at the integrations folder, there's this middleware starter, and there's two types of integrations. There are servers that directly emit events, and then there are middlewares that take existing events and convert them to AGUI on the other side. So this middleware starter is a pretty simple example of that, where we're basically just emitting our own custom events. This you could think of as a no framework example of an AGUI stream, where we're just quite literally sending events over the wire with no AI involved, right? So pretty simple example, but you can kind of see how this might expand for something like Mostra, where Mostra has a pretty complex agent framework, right? You can see that whereas this concept of getting remote agents, getting local agents, these are all things that AGUI supports and can support any environment that you want to bootstrap that onto. Going back to our page here, you can see that we have a bunch of different integrations. Some of these are servers, some of these are middleware, but the interface is the exact same. You just create a new agent and you can consume that stream. Basically, there's a run on that. If you were to do this without this configuration here, you would do agentic chat.run, and you provided some input and output to receive that. And then these events are just going to get wired up. These ultimately get funneled into CopilotKits. CopilotKit will actually handle all of these responses. So when you're interacting with the dojo, you're interacting with CopilotKit. But again, remember, the whole value proposition bunch of different agent frameworks, singular communication protocol, a bunch of different clients on the other side. Right now, there's just one. If you want to add a new one, please, we'll accept that contribution. I'm going to probably be looking at SNS over the weekend. I really want to get SNS as a client, so I think that'd be pretty cool. Let me know if you want to work on one together. But then you can kind of see
Nice.
we're just specifying a bunch of different types of agents, right? So this is a Monster one, Vercel, LangGraph, but they're all the same interface. You just need a URL. Sometimes you need an ID for something specific, some specific integration. And Agno is brand new. We just added Agno support. We just added Llama Index support. We actually worked with these teams directly to get these set up. Next up, we're going to be working with the Pydantic AI team, as well as probably some people in the Google team internally for the ADK side. There's been a couple of questions about N8N. N8N is something that we could absolutely support via middleware. If anyone wants to contribute that, please do. Not on our radar right now. If you do like N8N, we did just actually have a PR from the community get opened for Diffie support, which is pretty adjacent to N8N if you've ever used Diffie. It's another no-code editor for kind of agentic applications. So go give this a look if you like it. It'd be great to get some community feedback about this as well. Ultimately, we're going to be reviewing this soon, but
For sure.
just wanted to throw that out there. Okay, so we've looked at code for a little bit. Let's look at something in action. So this is something that we built using AGUI. We have kind of 3 agents down here in the bottom left. There's this Crew AI planner, a Haiku Mostra generator, and there is the research. Oh, somebody asked for the link to that. Sure. This is the wrong one. Sorry, got a couple of tabs open.
I can help you out in the chat, Tyler.
Ah, I beat you to it. Sorry, too fast. Okay, yeah. So this is basically an application that has a collection of different agents in it, and you can do a collection of different actions within it as well, based off of the AGUI stream that you choose. So all this is built using CopilotKit. Remember, again, just one client out of many that we'll have. But you can see I started one interaction here, which was research the impact of artificial intelligence on healthcare systems, and basically built out this whole progress here. So there was this research document that I wrote, and I'm going to run this live. I just wanted to give an overview of what we're even working on here. But I can collaborate on it directly with this agent. We're going to go back and forth to build out this whole research document, collection of sources, pretty standard bespoke stuff in the industry right now. But still worth looking at the fundamentals. So maybe we want to try something a little bit different. Anybody got an interesting research topic? I'll give 10 seconds for the best one to come through. Come on, you guys can do better than that. We got 100 people here. Yeah, there it is. Quantum entanglement, graph neural network. GRPO. I know nothing about that. So I'll go ahead and
Entanglement sounds cool. Or aliens.
research. What is this UI? This UI is actually an open source project. You can go look at it in the AGI repo. I'm actually doing a bit of an overhaul of this right now. I didn't get it done for this, but I took a first stab at it with some people on our side. I'll link that in here. But this is what I'm demoing right now if you wanted to go play with it locally. Okay, so you can see here, I started to kick off this research. I don't know what this is. Hopefully this isn't something awful. So, if it is, shame on you, but looks like it's something fine. So you can see here, there's a bunch of stuff happening, right? There are these sources on the right-hand side that are getting generated. There's this research document that's getting written, and you can see all of our actual sources being downloaded on the left side. So what is actually happening here is we're basically emitting events for shared state of this LangGraph. So LangGraph has this concept of state, if you're not familiar with LangGraph, and we're streaming that state and the state differentials directly to this UI so that you can see the research document getting written in real time. You can see the sources coming in real time. You can see all of the streaming is working from the actual LLM to talk with us directly. You can see tool calls. This is Agentic generative UI. So this is based off the state of the agent. We can see all of this stuff rendering based off of the AGUI stream. Now, imagine if you could get all of this to work with another client like an SMS client. So you could talk with an SMS client to get all of this interaction directly to talk with agents that you've built. That's kind of the value proposition. So right now, if we go back to that code sample that I've lost, give me 1 second to go back to it. All that we did really was just create this this starter agent. We built out some custom UI as well, which I'll show here in a second. But this is the connection point. Really, it's just give us a server and then we'll talk with it. Talk with it. There's nothing really crazy going on there. And then CopilotKit is a way to consume these streams in a way that's intelligent for your application. So you can build everything you saw here in a completely custom way. Just going through some other stuff. So we have this planner agent. So what are some projects that somebody's working on? What's a cool project that we want to plan? I'll give 10 seconds for this one. And I see all your questions in the chat. We'll get to them. Don't worry. Just saving them for the end. But how to build a pyramid. Okay, I like it. Dynamic generative UI. All right, we're going to go with the pyramid one. That's a cool one. How to build a pyramid. All right, let's figure out how to build the pyramid. And go ahead and send that. So what this is going to do now is it's going to spec out the actual project that we're going to be building. I'll give it a second to finish up. Let's say go ahead and add that to our plan. Give that a second. And you can see here that it went ahead and prioritized all of the stuff that we're going to have to do to build this. So we have to design it, select the construction site, prepare that site, procure materials. You know, a pretty whatever example of this. You might not actually want to do this in some kind of production application, but we have different projects. We created this new project. We can mark stuff as completed. I can actually ask the AI to mark these things as completed, like, hey, we finished this project. Go ahead and close it up. Won't be doing that because I do want to move on to some other cool stuff. So this was another example of shared state where there's a bunch of different things that is in the crew AI state that we are synchronizing back and forth via AGUI. This is just, again, this is an amuse-bouche, if you will, of what you could do with CopilotKit plus AGUI, but you can also just read these AGUI streams directly. Say you don't want to use CopilotKit, that's something that you could technically do, but you know, CopilotKit's the best way to do this right now. It makes it really, really simple. Let's make a haiku. Any cool haiku themes? Gonna, again, take 10 seconds here. All right, I need haiku themes. Come on, guys. Samurai coding on the beach. All right, I like it.
That's an interesting one.
Let's write a haiku about a samurai coding on the beach. All right. So what this is going to do is this is going to use Mostra, another agent framework, if you haven't heard of Mostra, that's TypeScript oriented, actually. So it generated this UI here. I can hit approve. That's an example of what we call human in the loop. It's a pretty fundamental concept in agentic design today, where you, a user, and the agent, a backend kind of program, are working together on some project. So the LLM prompts the user to say, hey, what do you think about this? And you can say yes or no. So what we got was on the beach, samurai, writes code with the sound of waves, harmony, and keys. Gorgeous. Absolutely fantastic one. But we're going to be expanding this. Really, we're going to be adding Llama Index and Agno right into this. If you do want to get started with Llama Index, doing all of this fun stuff, if you want to get started with Agno, I built out a couple of starter repos for these with CopilotKit that use AGUI streams. Pretty simple. Basically, just come in here, you install the agent, or you install everything, install the agent's dependencies, and then run it. I did want to show from an implementation perspective what's happening here, just to make sure there's no smoke and mirrors. But basically, we're just starting our agent and then connecting to it via AGUI. Runtime is basically a proxy layer between your front end and your agents. This exists for security reasons. You don't want to put API keys and things inside of your front end, right? So this is what the runtime exists for. But basically, this runtime will take all the AGUI events, convert them into CopilotKit of streams of CopilotKit reactive streams. So all of the stuff that you saw earlier, all of that just works through this. We also have a Llama Index example. And just to make sure there's no smoke and mirrors, I just want to show that it is quite literally the same thing in terms of implementation to swap out agents. So, you know, we have a Llama Index here. We're using UV, pretty simple starter. If we go into our runtime here, you'll see just we're doing a little bit different. We're doing it by HTTP. So some integrations will be official, like top level integrations that you can import. In this case, we're just literally connecting to an HTTP stream. And that's it. So from an implementation perspective, say that you want to get, there's kind of two personas that use AGUI. One is you want to consume these streams, right? You just want to be a benefactor of all of the work that's being done here. If you want to do that, CopilotKit's a great starting point. But let's say that you want to expand or add some integration. Say that you have some custom framework that you want to build. AGUI is actually a really great way to do that. Say that you're building your own custom agent framework, because now you just emit these events and you're compatible with any of the clients on the other side. That's the whole value of it, right? So there's a lot of companies that are building their own
Totally.
agent frameworks that don't like maybe XYZ framework, and so they go and build their own thing. We've had a couple of people doing that right now where they will build out their stream. They'll emit these AGUI events, and on the other side, they get all the benefits of CopilotKit. They'll also get all the benefits of any other client that are added. And I keep really hammering the client concept home because we really want the community to get involved here, like clients that you find really exciting, things that you want. So I heard some like WhatsApp things in
Totally.
here. I heard a couple of different things. Please contribute, like,
Telegram.
make something that consumes those streams. We would love to have a contribution for that. That's the whole value proposition, right? Okay, so I just
And
talked.
Tyler, someone was curious, do you need co-agents for this? The
There's a bunch
answer,
of
and
questions
correct
in
me
the
if I'm
chat.
wrong, yeah, and we'll get to those, but because CopilotKit is technically the only client, and like Tyler just mentioned, um, this will be expanding to any client you can think of. For now, it's CopilotKit, so yes, you need co-agents for this particular instance, but when it expands to other clients, the answer is no.
Right. Um, okay, I think now is a good time to take a pause and answer a bunch of questions. What I would like to do before we do that, yeah, Llama Index, Agno, you got it. Give me 1 second. Uh, take that, and then I'll just get the with Agno one. Give me 1 second. My internet's so slow. Sorry, guys. All right, and these are just templates. If you want to poke around with these, just hit this big old use this template button. You'll instantly get a template to play around with these things. Okay, I'm going to now go through the chat and read all the questions that got popped up while I was talking for a long time there. So give me just 1 second while I go to the top of these.
Yeah, it's a pretty long list, and
Is
we probably won't get through all of them today. I did put our Discord link into the chat. So, if we don't get to your question, or if you want to ask more questions, or if you need support, join the AGUI Discord. It's new, like a week old, so it's small but growing
Mhm.
fast. And that will be the place. That's the go-to place for the
Yeah.
AGUI community.
All right, I got the first question. So, how to connect AGI to Olema models or VLLM hosted models? Great question. The way that first off, that doesn't exist today. Second off, say that you want to go build that. There is this Quickstart in the AGUI docs. If you come in here, there's this build integrations Quickstart. Since Olema has their own custom kind of events to emit how to interact with models, the way that this would look like is basically going into this introduction, figuring out if you want to do a server or middleware. I would recommend a middleware for this because they already have their existing protocol, right? So to emit AGUI events, basically you're just going to take those events, intercept them, and then emit them out. So in this situation, we're building out an OpenAI example. So first we start with a dummy example, and then we use OpenAI directly through the completions API to actually formulate a response via AGUI. So if somebody wanted to do this for Olema, build an integration for Olema, you would get all the niceness of this as well. So I just want to throw out that it's the same thing for VLLM, by the way. And in fact, CopilotKit has a contribution open for VLLM support, actually, which is kind of cool. All right, just reading through this. Bunch of stuff here. Yeah, Diffie's great. Go check out Diffie. N8N is also pretty cool. We went over the demo UI. I don't know what is longevity going to be solved. I think that might have been a question about like to ask the research agent. If not, please let me know. Maybe I missed something here. Oh, we got some really good Ancient Aliens, Taylor Swift records. I really like all of these things. I should have seen these. Does CopilotKit/AGUI work with streaming workflows? Thinking Mostra, but others are fine. Only streaming agents, or is there no difference? So we do have a concept in AGUI of workflows getting started. Basically, those are steps, I believe. Yeah, you can see them right here. Step started, step finished. So We're working with Mastra. Mastra was basically our first integration that we worked with directly when we started to build AGUI. Some kind of history there is AGUI was something that was under the hood of CopilotKit for a really long time. And then as we started to integrate with more and more frameworks, we realized, oh, this is something that we can make generic and we can kind of give this back to the industry abroad. So that's kind of where AGUI formed. And our first kind of integration working with that new approach was Mastra. And so we're actually working with them really closely to get workflow support out of Mastra, as well as shared state. Shared state, that's a new concept actually for Mastra. I think it's called structured memory, if you haven't heard about that. That support's going to be coming pretty soon, actually. We're working with Abhi on the Mastra side there directly, and that's been a really great project to work with so far. But yeah, these
Yeah,
steps,
totally.
step started, step finished, that's exactly how you would implement kind of workflow-based approaches. Just reading through here a couple of things. Yeah, you found the landing page for the Crew AI integration. Here, I'll go ahead and open that up for fun, in case anyone hasn't never seen that before. But this is basically everything that you just saw. This is with Crew Crews and Crew Flows. If you've ever used either of those frameworks, pretty cool stuff here. Pretty standard kind of interaction. This is just a feature viewer that kind of is like the dojo, but for Crew. Just reading through. Any plans for agent memory management addition to the UI? Maybe I'm misunderstanding the question. You're just talking about memory management through AGUI, I think. That would very likely for most frameworks be through shared state. So Monster is actually, you might have heard me mention structured memory. Um, that is going to be their concept of shared state. And I think a bunch of different frameworks kind of will do something similar where memory comes through state. Um,
Tyler, someone asked, are there things that AGUI will have that CopilotKit won't?
yeah,
In my eyes,
absolutely.
it's yes.
We want AGUI to grow out of CopilotKit. Like we obviously
Yeah,
want CopilotKit to succeed. We also want AGUI to succeed at the same time. And so AGUI, some events will get added that you may not consume inside of CopilotKit. Similarly, some things that might get added will be only consumed by CopilotKit or something adjacent to it. I'm thinking about like shared state for phones, right? What does it look like to share state with a text message? Like probably nothing. Ultimately, you just want to text back and forth. Generative UI isn't really something that you care about when you're texting. You just want a response, and streaming won't even really work in that situation because you can't stream a text. So it's something where like you'll use some events, you won't use others in certain clients. Ultimately, we want what's best for the protocol, not necessarily what's best for CopilotKit. Just make that super clear. All right, I'm just reading through.
right. Yeah, AGUI was birthed out of this problem we were solving to integrate with agent frameworks. So AGUI isn't about CopilotKit, it's about this integration and connecting to agents.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, cool question here from Adarsh. If I want to make my end users to enter relevant prompts as per my domain, how do I educate my end users with respect to instruction on how to use prompt effectively via the Copilot? So CopilotKit allows you to send events such as run started, run finished, shared state. Through all of these, you could adjust the prompt of your system internally. So maybe you have some prompts uh, that the user can collaborate on for your agent, and then that gets fed into your LLM call essentially. So you could educate your users. I kind of read that as how do I let my users shift and change the prompt, and how do I inform them of what that prompt is? I would recommend doing that through shared state. All right, just moving along. Got a lot of questions, like all the engagement guys. Are you running a LangGraph platform server that you consume from to host the agents? Yes, that's exactly what we're doing actually. It's a LangGraph platform server. I think in this demo, this is all hosted in LangGraph platform. We're also going to be adding support for Fast API through AGUI. Right now, Fast API, our current from a CoPilot perspective, we have a Fast API integration for LangGraph. That's using the old protocol. We're going to be converting that over to be using AGUI soon. So you'd also be able to host these through Fast API server. Can you go into specifics about how state, streaming, and UI elements are synchronized and updated? That's more detail would be very interesting.
Hey Tyler.
Yeah.
Let me, I wanted to suggest something. So, does anyone want to ask their question using the microphone? Yep.
Yeah,
If you
raise your
have like a
hands.
longer question, yeah, raise your hand. We can actually bring you up into from the attendee slot, and you can just ask it directly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to answer this
anybody,
a couple more questions. Let's bring in somebody from the chat. If you have a question you want to ask directly to everyone, please just raise your hand. Happy to bring you up.
yeah.
Okay,
So
so
Shane wants to ask, and I'm actually bringing him up now. It'll take like 5-ish seconds for you
cool.
to
Good.
pop up, Shane. But yeah, totally. And let's see, rejoined. Yeah. So Shane, you're up.
What's up, Shane?
Ask away. How's it going?
Switch on my camera. Good. Hey, first, thanks, you guys. I'm
Awesome.
really enjoying what you guys have going on here. And the main thing that we're looking at is how you integrate agents into the UX and solving specific problems. We had some problems, and we were looking around for others that we could kind of draft off of, and you're the only place we found. And so thank you for that. We solved a few problems that we had. So I was wondering,
Nice.
one, do you have any workshops on that? And then who do you guys follow on best practices or the latest thinking on agentic UX?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think what you'll notice right now in the industry is there's kind of a couple questions here. One is how do you follow agentic UX, I believe. When I look at that, I look at big projects, things like Lovable or like the research canvas built into OpenAI. These are pretty big players in the industry that are getting, one Lovable, Vercel or V0 from Vercel. These projects are getting a lot of traction, a lot of ARR because people really like interacting with these things. And I think what you notice about UX is with agents specifically, is that agents are this really long running process that have been bundled to look fast because they stream, right? That's a huge problem in the industry right now is like, how do I stream progress of my agentic experiences well? And I think that what AGUI really does well is bundle that up into a singular package, which is giving you all the primitives you need to do those agentic experiences with interactivity and direct collaboration back and forth. So your question was, who do I follow? I typically follow like big projects that are doing agentic experiences. Lovable is a really big one that I like a lot. V0 is a good one. Um, Nathan, maybe you have some influence
Agent
that you
Ops.
think are pretty good.
Yes. Well, if you look at the it's really like preference, but there's a lot of influencers and YouTubers with large audiences. Like I really like Cole Madin. He's a developer with like 20 years experience, younger guy, but really knows his stuff about agents and development. So those two combined, he's not just an influencer, but things like that. Like I think those are really interesting, and I think he has really good insights. That's just again my opinion. You've got agent ops, and Twitter is just full of voices on agents. So yeah,
Yeah. Shane,
Okay,
any follow-up questions?
thank you very much. No, I want to leave space for others, but thank you very much, and appreciate all that you guys are doing.
Absolutely. Thanks, Shane. All right, Adarsh, you're
awesome.
live.
Thank you.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes.
my last question was more around, when you keep it open-ended, users can come and ask any kind of stuff, right? So can we confine, let's say, if I want to build a very telco-specific copilot, can we confine the users to stay grounded within what prompts to ask and promote these as examples within the copilot window, which is the UI, to say, hey, you could ask these kind of questions and we'll be able to better answer. That's one. And the
Yeah.
second one is, once users start asking questions, obviously there'll be hallucinations and other things. The standard feedback button, how do you incorporate that to make sure if there are some crappy response, it's kind of proactively monitored, understood, and corrected? What kind of interface do you all have around those things?
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of questions that I want to bundle into this as well, Darsh. A couple of people were asking this UI here that we're looking at. How much of this is from the AI? How much of this is from like statically coded? And this kind of feeds into what you're asking, which is how do I make it so that my AI does the thing that it's best at and my users do the thing that they're best at, right? AI is really great at making good decisions. AI is really great at sometimes generating content, but not all the time, right? You want to collaborate back and forth on this. Think about Cursor, right? Cursor will go and write some task, but then ask you, what do you think about this before committing that and like moving forward. So human in the loop is usually what we respond to with that, which is if you're going to do something big, or you're going to do something that has fuzziness to it, you need to get good feedback from the user to say, is this good? Is this bad? So if you remember that haiku agent that we were just looking at a second ago, actually, maybe we generate some random one, uh, suggesting things about changing of the seasons, whatever. What this is going to do now is it's going to ask me, do I want to reject or approve this? Right. So this is some fuzzy thing that happened. It's pretty minimal, nothing too crazy. But you can imagine this is kind of like the cursor thing, where cursor says, do you want to commit this, yes or no? So that's kind of one thing where you can kind of guide the agents into like correct paths based off of users' input. This can be something even more complex where you have a whole checklist of things like, do you want to have these sources, yes or no? We don't have a great example of that right here, but the actual approval flow is all just through tool call responses, which is standard JSON output. So all of the UI and UX and changes that you're seeing here, all of this is really facilitated by tools. Another thing that you asked, Adarsh, is how do I guide my user to use my product the way that I want them to? So that's another thing which you can see here in the suggestions in the bottom left. This is a
Okay.
CopilotKit concept, but is more of a agentic UX thing that we built into CopilotKit that is also facilitated via AGUI. So kind of behind the scenes here, we make a tool call to get suggestions from the actual agent itself, and the agent decides when to call those. So in this case, I have like research on AI ethics, study renewable research, blah, 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 blah. There's a bunch of stuff. I can click on a button and just goes and does it. This is another kind of UX, which is like suggestions that you can either hard code or dynamically generate from an LLM to kind of work with the LLM to suggest feedback or hard code it. Basically, hand-holding your user through the experience. Does that answer your question?
Is there a backend to the, so when you said feedback, human in the loop, like a thumbs up,
Yeah.
thumbs down, or good or bad, is there a backend interface which you have where I can see via your UI a report of for the last 30 days, what kind of transactions or queries or prompts were asked?
Yeah.
What were they? Was it good, bad? Is that also supported from your UI?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. One, this is just a project that I built. It's standard or like it's bespoke, right? It's custom. I wrote all of this by hand.
Okay.
The other thing I wanted to mention with what you're saying is yes, that's supported. So you remember these AGUI events. Um, Basically there's this event called tool call events where there's a tool call start and tool call end. Human in the loop is typically a tool call has been started and a response has not been given. And so when human in the loop happens, really what's happening from an AGI perspective is a tool call hasn't been responded to. So the agentic run loop does not continue because it's waiting for that response. So when I hit approve in this UI here, really what's happening is I'm sending a tool call end event that is ending that tool call. And then the UI is like, oh, okay, great. Now I can breathe again. Let me proceed. So that's basically what's happening here. So that's the actual support that you're talking about. There's not a human in the loop event. It's more just the agentic run loop is on pause until this tool call finishes, basically.
Okay.
Nice.
Awesome. And I want to jump in here. We have 3 more people that we're going to try and get to in the
Great.
next few minutes. Thank
Let's
you,
do it.
Adarsh, for your question. Corentin, you're up next. Go ahead and ask away.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, guys, for this presentation. So my question, so I wrote the question, and I guess you kind of sort of answered it. Like I would love if you can expand. My question was, are the components, like the UI components, coded, or can they be dynamically generated by AI? And looks like it can be both.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, like, what's like if you can like provide a bit more answer, like more details on how they can be generated by AI. You mentioned a tool, so like what tool can be used for that, and
Yeah.
if it can be coded, like what's a way to do it?
Absolutely. So there's a CodePilotKit way to do this. There's also AGUI way to do this. So AGUI, again, just to reinforce it, is just a standard set of 16 events by which you can do everything that you've seen today can be done via those 16 events. kind of expanding on that, there's two questions that people often ask us when we talk about generative UI. So generative UI is a concept where people can sometimes think, oh, all of the code is being generated by the AI, and all of the UI that I see is from that AI. Very often, people want that, but it's not exactly what is good right now. So AGUI supports both of these things. You could call a tool that will write some code for you and then load that into the DOM to render, right? We typically don't do that. What we do instead is we render the data that gets generated from the LLM in a structured way through standard bespoke components. So in this case, I have this research planner, or sorry, this haiku generator. So when I generate this, all of the data in this component is generated, but the component is static, right? I wrote some code. I can actually show you what that looks like. Just give me 1 second. But all of this code is static. So there's this component for rendering haiku somewhere in here. Maybe it's in here. No. It's somewhere in here. I don't want to get too into it, but there's basically, you saw that markdown that we were rendering. We're just rendering markdown, but all the content is generated. That's kind of it. If you did want to have it be fully generated, like I said, you could have an agent write the actual component and then load that component into the DOM. Ultimately, that we haven't found great success with that just broadly across the industry for a variety of different reasons. But it is possible. You could do it. But we typically recommend generating UI based off a tool call structured responses. And that's exactly what you see here. We have structured some tool call that you can see. I can click approve and it generates the tool call UI. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, great. Thanks so much. And yeah, I think it makes sense. So like you have components, basically we can accept the structured data if I understand correctly.
Yeah.
And I guess you have documentations already on the website where I can learn to
Yeah, so AGUI is an implementation detail for CopilotKit and any client that will consume AGUI streams, right? So from doing exactly what I do right now, that's going to the CopilotKit docs and reading these guides around generative UI. And basically the way that this works from CopilotKit's perspective is a tool call. You specify what tool call you want to render, the arguments of it, and then you just render it with any kind of custom UI that you want. And these tool calls come from AGUI, essentially. So this is more just for type safety. These aren't like what actually get programmed. This is just, oh, these are my types that I expect. You could completely ignore this and then just read args as an any type, and then just render your any into any of these components. But what matters is just the tool call name, which comes from AGUI's tool call start event. There's a tool call name in there. That's how we render that.
Great. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Awesome. Cool. We got
Thanks, Corentin.
Thank you so much, Corentin. Really appreciate it. All right, we have Greg.
Yep. Greg, you're up.
Give Greg a second. Greg, you're muted, just a heads up.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, sure can.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So Mike, I have a question. It's in the chat too, but how does AGUI facilitate rich content exchange? And I specifically want to start with receiving rich output from the agents, like charts, fancy UI cards, et cetera. And I especially want to know around how does it prevent, or how, can it help prevent, the in-stream temporary weird look where you see text all of a sudden jump and maybe some JSON show up and HTML, and then all of a sudden it morphs back, it changes and morphs into a chart, or it morphs into a card. Does it facilitate any of that?
Yes and no. Again, or not again, but AGUI is a primitive implementation for streaming. So the other side, the client side of these things, needs to think about this problem. Very often what most people will do, you can look at reasoning models, for example. Go use DeepSeek today without the DeepSeek UI, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. What they do is they have tags that you read the beginning of and the end of, and anything in between is considered intermediate from a rendering perspective. This is how they implement reasoning. So if you go into DeepSeek, you type in like research penguins or whatever, there will be a tag that gets generated that says reasoning. Everything in between is reasoning. It doesn't render it. It renders in a special UI. And AGUI can totally support that. There's this concern that AGUI does have around streaming, which is delta streaming. So instead of sending all of these giant chunks of data, like rich content, like you were talking about, we send just the deltas. So when we talk about like state, for example, you'll get these state snapshots, which is like at a certain point in time, here's what the state looked like. But there's also these deltas. So this is a patch operation where you take all the previous stuff and you patch this operation on top of it to get the full state. And that is a state concept that we do care about, is like these rich content streams will be really large, right? So how do we efficiently communicate those things? Another question you had, which was, I think, more like what you were trying to get at, which is how do I do custom rendering of intermediate markdown, right? We have this concept in CopilotKit. This is a CopilotKit concept, not an AGUI. Remember, this is a client concern, not an AGUI concern, potentially. It depends on how you look at it. And the way that this works is basically you give us things to render. So in this case, maybe it's a reference. We want to render this reference chip. So anytime that a reference chip is embedded into the actual markdown, we want to render something specific, which you can see down here in the bottom. There's like this reference for your dog's lifespan or something. But ultimately, AGUI will just transmute any data that you give it. So your agent would bundle stuff that's intermediate into some standard format, and then you can render that on the other side however you want. So, Greg, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Awesome.
Cool.
Hey guys, we're right at the top of the hour, and we want to be sensitive to everyone's schedule, and we really appreciate everyone joining. We had almost 200 people in attendance, so that's awesome. Plus, like 200 people on Twitter, which is amazing. So thank you guys so much for joining. And one thing that I would like to ask is that everyone check out the GitHub repo. I pasted the link in the chat, but I'm going to paste it again. And if you haven't done it, please start it. It's growing fast. And then please join our Discord, which I will also paste again. And there we go. Discord, GitHub. Thank you guys.
Just before
Appreciate
everyone
everyone
starts
being
leaving,
here.
Before everyone starts leaving, Justin asked, "Can I invest?" Yes, you can. Please go start our repo. If that's what if you want to invest, go start our repo right now, and open up any pull requests. Cool. Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate
Totally.
it.
Join the community, contribute. Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks, Tyler, for your amazing insights and giving us a demo. Everyone have a wonderful day. And Varu and Zakan, sorry if I didn't pronounce those correctly. Please ask your question. Sorry we couldn't get to you. Ask it in the Discord. Thanks,
Yep.
everyone.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. All right. Bye.